Bow down before my psycho power.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm going to give a little breakdown of what I experienced in Marvel Tokon Beta, and I would probably give it overall probably an 8. I'm still forming my ideas around the game, but I'm loving it a lot. I have made the decision that I will play the game on release and I will make content for it. I think the brand new reveal that they did a couple of days ago for Cyclops looks fantastic, and I'm also excited to see what other characters and ideas they bring to the game. It does suck, however, that the PC players were experiencing a lot of problems. Hopefully that is all fixed before it comes to launch and everyone can play the game, and it doesn't turn out like Avatar fighting game where the game gets delayed and there's problems, etc. If you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. For this breakdown, I'll start off and talk about the story, but before I do so, if you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. But for the story, we got a sneak peek at the preview of it. They do this kind of half fully animated cutscenes, but then the other half is like a comic panel style where it's semi-animated, but it's fully voice acted. Not only will people be able to watch it like on clips on YouTube, but people will be able to fully immerse themselves in the story, in the lore, in the world that they are offering. I understand story isn't for everyone, but the fact that this fighting game is offering a big chunk of story so players could get more involved in the characters and the lore, and if you want to explore that, it's there for you. I think it's fantastic. The plot kind of revolves around two characters. The first one is the champion, who arrives on Earth, and he basically is giving the people the ultimatum. If you win, you can survive. If you lose, your planet gets destroyed. And they kind of show you a version of this when the story first starts, so you can see like basically what the stakes are. There's another character who is the promoter, who is setting up the tournament, commentating it, selecting who participates, and then also deciding how many characters per team. And it's funny because Fantastic Four isn't in this game just yet. A lot of people were talking about whether or not they should or should not be in the game, but the reason why you have 4 people on a team is because of the Fantastic Four people on the team. So that was interesting that they paid homage to the characters like that, but they're then not in the game themselves. The playable story that's available in the beta revolves around Team Spider-Man, and you can see the first 3 chapters, and it basically shows how their team comes to be. So I'm assuming for all the other chapters, you will see that from their perspective and their formation, and then as you dive deeper into the chapters, you will get to see how they actually tackle the threat, and then you'll get to see where they win, right? Because each team will probably have their own ending, and you can see how they, basically defeat this threat. When that releases, I'll do a full playthrough and a full breakdown, but so far I love everything that they're offering because the people who love story can fully immerse themselves in that, and will be a lot of content there to enjoy. Now, as for just the general art style, I think it's fantastic. It looks vibrant, it looks beautiful, and it's full of life. The visuals are top notch. The way that the characters move, the way that the characters walk, there's no stiff animation to be found. Everything is moving with such fluidity, and it's good to see a fighting game have this level of detail, this level of love and care put into it. Animations for a fighting game is a deal breaker for a lot of people. Just casually watching this is going to be very important because it's the Marvel IP, and that will bring in a lot of players. And if they're able to watch, follow along, and just be overall entertained by what they're seeing, they're more likely to give it a try and stick around. So that's very good that they knocked that part out of the park. Another thing that I think is very important, and a lot of fighting games kind of gloss over this, is how they have multiple different languages that you could play the game in. Voice acting is peak. The voice acting is fire. I main Blade alone for that voice acting, but that's always the case. I love the way that the Blade talk. I like the way that his character acts, and in this game they nailed it. I think all of the characters, some of them are a little bit better than others. Like I've seen some people critiquing the way that certain characters talk and say like, is this comic book accurate? Of course you'll have a lot of that going on, but like just generally listening to the characters and the way that they talk to each other, the way that they interact is fire, and you could tailor it to your specific taste by deciding what language you want them to talk in. And one thing is really cool is that you could decide which language the individual characters to speak. So you could be like, I want Blade to speak English, I want this character to speak this, I want this character to speak Japanese. You can do that. So that's fire. And I think a lot of games like Tekken, Street Fighter, other games should take this approach where you have the standard language, but then you also can like adjust it and add a little bit more to it, basically make it the way you want to play it. I think this game does a good job of that. Another thing when you talk about the dialogue is how the characters talk to each other. In intros, in win poses, when switching in and out, taking turns, all of those little moments just make it feel more connected. When you hear the characters saying the other characters' names and they're kind of like interacting with one another, it just makes it feel that much more special because you know the developers put time into that. And they're also like kind of calling out like to the character. They're talking about their fighting styles, their heritage, X-Man this, mutants that, Spider-Man this. It just feels much more connected instead of giving like a generic like you're not gonna win this one. Like they speak to each other. Now, as we talk about the thing that's most important, gameplay. Gameplay is a deal breaker for a lot of people if it doesn't feel the exact same way. Fighting games is something that has existed for a long time and people have high expectations. And with this game, for me, it was no different. A lot was riding on this beta of whether or not I was going to play it, buy it, and just overall make content for it. But after playing it and getting adjusted to it, I can very much say that this game is fire. The gameplay is fluid and it's engaging. It does take a little bit of time to kind of get used to the team element because for me personally, I'm not used to like a team game. Learning the difference between the switch out button versus the assist button took some time. And then also kind of trying to implement that into the gameplay itself where like you're fighting with your character, but then you got to keep in the back of the mind that you can summon someone to do something. That part of the game I think is going to take a little bit more time for me to learn, but it's not that like I'm struggling to learn that. It's just that I never really played a game where I had that ability to do so. When you first pick up the game, if you have no experience with it, it's going to be a little bit of a head scratcher of what buttons you're pressing and what's going wrong. But generally, I think that element of the game is really fun. Another thing that I was very curious about, because this is my first time playing a game, is the inputs. Some fighting games go overboard with how difficult they make their inputs. Like for example, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. I like that game a lot, but doing double quarter circles all the time for simple moves just was super ridiculous. And I don't know if it was just the character that I liked in that game or if the whole game was like that, but it was very, very off-putting because you just felt like you were doing so much execution for a very simple attack. Not only was it ridiculous, but after a while it would make my hands hurt. So for this game, I like that they kept it a little bit more simple where the buttons, from what I've learned so far, are very simple. Nothing in this game input wise I have found to be like super complex to do. It's all very simple, it's all very straightforward, but the complexity comes in like how you do these moves, what type of decision you make, how are you going to respond to the opponent, the timing, the punishing. Like in my opinion, that aspect of fighting games is what makes it truly shine. Not that a move is super difficult to do, but that the move leads to so many possibilities and it allows for all of these mental games to be played. You could charge up attack, you could just let it rock, you can try to like cancel it, you could bait it out, you could try to follow it up with an assist. There's so many different possibilities of what you can do, and exploring all of those and figuring out how to use it to get your opponent to fall for your traps is something that I've always loved. As a Yoshi main, being given so many different moves and then being able to do with those moves what I want is fantastic. And I think this game nails that as well, especially with its variety of characters where you have some characters who want to get in close, some characters who want to stay back, and then characters who like to do the blend of both. And on the topic of characters, I played a couple, I haven't played all, but the characters that I like so far and also dislike, number one being Ghost Rider. He was a little bit underwhelming to me. I didn't like the car aspect. I more so like Ghost Rider when he has the motorcycle or the horse. So seeing this big car come in and swing around and drive around feels kind of lame. But the character overall, he just isn't scratching the itch that I thought he would. And then I also swapped him out for Magic because I thought she was like a really cool character as well. But currently right now, I'm personally just struggling with that character, trying to get in close on people, trying to fight with her. She just doesn't seem to be mashing well with me, and I think I would need to get better at the game before I give her a real shot. Just with my current skill sets, it seems like she's more difficult to use than other characters. Now, my main character, and I was kind of predicting this to be the case, so I'm not surprised to see that this is the case, but Blade. Blade is super, super fun, and the more time I spend playing the game, the more I understand his place and how like you play the character, how you could bait things out, how you could use his projectiles to close the gap, how you could use his other projectiles to pull the opponent in to get a free combo. Blade is super fun and I love playing him. Some of the other characters that I matched with him to fill in the gap was like Magneto. I think that character is really good spam. He might be top tier, but I need more time and I need more experience because there's some really good characters out there like Star-Lord, Spider-Man, etc. Now, as for Doom, Doom is really good, but my Doom has definitely not reached his full potential. I played against one Doom who was doing some very crazy things, and it made me realize that I'm just scratching the surface with all of these characters. You could be untouchable, yet at the same time just run circles around your opponent. And if you understand the movement, if you understand the execution, if you understand the way that the team system works, you could really do some crazy things. And then lastly, Green Goblin. Spamming people with this character is so much fun. It's obnoxious, he's a scrub killer, but it's so much fun. Somehow I just always find the characters who are super obnoxious to use, and then I just abuse them like crazy. It makes sense that Green Goblin though would be the scumbag character. That's very in line with what that character is in the comics and in the movies. Lastly, on the topic of things that I'm struggling with, and I think this is because of my Tekken background, number one is blocking. In Tekken, you have a neutral block, which means you can kind of just stand still and not press anything, and your character will block a lot of things. I have been doing that in Marvel Tokon and been getting lit up for it. So I'm getting more used to holding back and down back to block. And even in my short time playing the game, I'm already seeing night and day changes there. Another thing that I was struggling with is trying to close the gap with things like a jab, things like small attacks. For whatever reason, my movement feels a little like stuck in the mud at times, and I can't like get really close to them and then jab and then lead into a combo. So I kind of like whiff or I kind of overcommit the dash and then I get blown up for it. So those are like the little things that I'm like interested to work on, and once I do, I think I'll be playing a totally different game at that point. Lastly, another thing that's very difficult for me to deal with right now is keep out. But I know that just, playing keep out against other people, I know that once you figure out the timing, once you figure out, how things work, certain moves work, you can find the gap, you can teleport in, and then you can also parry and do some damage. So I think that this game has a lot of counterplay. I think this game has a lot of decision making. I think that this game has a lot that it's offering. And if you love fighting games, this is definitely one to try out. I can't wait to see what this game has to offer. I can't wait to see what this game looks like at the highest level, and I can't wait to see what the developers have in store for us next.